Sam join. All righty. Well, thank you, Sonika, for being here, and thank you, Onyeka, to you as well for hosting today. Today's Reach Cultural Story is highlighting international perspectives. I'll let Sonika do a self-introduction. I'm going to keep recording, but I'm going to turn my camera and sound off and hand it over to you guys. But thank you both for being here and participating. We're very excited.
Okay. Hi, Sonika. It's so great to have you join me for this webinar. My name is Onyeka, and I am a grad student at DU, University of Denver. I am currently taking my master's in strategic human resource management and development. And I'm also an intern at Diverse Talent, just learning the world of HR and just really immersing myself into the US workplace, basically, because I come from Nigeria and this will be my first time actually just experiencing the workplace in America. So it's been a great opportunity at Diverse Talent, and I'm so happy to host this webinar and have you join us. Hopefully Sam joins us soon. So I just wanted to ask you to tell me just a little bit about your background, yourself, how do you relate to immigration, and just a brief, just like a 2 minutes or 5 minute story, or just go as you want.
Oh, thank you. Well,
Yeah.
it's my pleasure to be here, and I am someone who is always enthusiastic to speak about my experience as an immigrant, because a lot of times when people hear immigrant, they always think that it's someone who is non-English speaking, and I immigrated here at 2 years old from the island of Jamaica, and it's an English-speaking country. And for anyone who is on the call today that are from the Twin Islands of Trinidad and Tobago, I just want to say Happy Independence Day. So for me, immigrating here at 2 years old, I would say it was something I didn't know would be a challenge. I thought I was just like any other kid that had curry goat and rice and peas on Sundays. However, when I realized that when it came up to Sunday dinner and also traditions, that I did stand out amongst my peers. But luckily for me, I grew up in a neighborhood that was predominantly West Indian. However, we did have teachers who weren't West Indian, so it was always an explanation, and especially with the pronunciation of my name. That was something that I personally had struggled with as a child, to decide whether or not to correct anyone to pronounce my name, or if they mispronounced it and then pronounced it. And it was just always a back and forth whether or not to correct people. And that's when I realized that I was an immigrant. I had an unfamiliar name, and that it will always travel with me even in my adult life. So that's been my story and how I relate to immigration. And just one more thing. As an attorney, I interact with different folks, and that has always given me an advantage as to have an understanding as to why people do things differently, or why their values are the way that they're comfortable with. So that has also landed me in the world of immigration. With me being an immigrant myself, I always felt the need that even if it wasn't a full-time practice for myself, that I would always lend myself the help and expertise to help others along their journey as immigrants.
That is so true, and I resonate with your experience as well. Coming from, it's a journey, and I think everybody comes here at different points in their life. Like, you came here at 2 years old. I came here, I think I was 26 when I came in here. I mean, December 2021, I think I was 26. I don't know, I can't remember. But yeah, I am speaking with like different people. Everybody comes here with a different, background, different story. Hi, Sam. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
We just started, so
Oh, okay.
yes. So
right.
I don't know if you've met Sonika, but this is Sonika Dixon, and
Nice
she
to meet
is
you.
an immigration law and employment attorney as well. And for
Okay.
Sonika, this is Sam. He's a tech executive and founder of the Colorado African Center as well. So
Nice to meet
Sam,
you, Sonika.
yeah. We were just like doing a couple of introductions. So would you like to tell us about yourself, your story, and how do you relate to immigration?
So you want me to just start with the introduction, or have we gone into the
Yeah, just an introduction of yourself, just a brief story. Just tell us how you relate to immigration as well in that story. Yeah.
Oh, okay. My name is Samuel Oga, originally from Nigeria. Been in the US for a few years. I would say about 9 years or plus. Came here as a student in 2010, and been a while. Came here as a student, did my bachelor's in South Dakota. Went to School of Mines in South Dakota, where I did computer science. Then I also went to some school here as well in Colorado Technical College, where I did some information technology. That kind of kicked off some of my career in IT, where I started having interest more in. I did some internship while I was in South Dakota. Then also got a job after that. When I graduated, I got a job in North Dakota, where I was working as a desktop support. And then that kind of started my IT career. I'm currently a senior DevOps and solutions architect for the Department of Defense. That's my client. I'm also very involved in my community. For the past 6 to 8 years, I have been very involved since I moved to Colorado, involved with what is going on within my community, from just bringing people together to have fun and just having that integration, bringing those unity, just fostering community cultures of diversity within Colorado. That has led to where we've been able to introduce different programs, and that also led to me finding a nonprofit, which is called Colorado African Cultural Center. Colorado African Cultural Center literally became a nonprofit based on a need. It was a need within the community that we had. We had a WhatsApp group where we normally just talk about what we have going on and promote our different businesses, but then it wasn't enough, right? We had people that had moved from different countries coming into our community, and they were struggling around just being able to get familiar with the system. How do they find a job? How do they transit with their career back home? How can they get that kind of jobs here? What about building a credit? What about buying a home? So some of those became a need. And if you see our program today, we created programs around some of those needs, like our financial literacy program, which literally helps people to help build their credit. If they have issues or they have bad credit, we help to fix them. And then our goal is to create a roadmap where you're able to buy your own home within a certain time. So we help with those. We partner with the First Bank and Alpine Bank. We also have our career development, which helps to train more people in IT and other careers as well. But we're more focused in IT because we feel like that's an evergreen industry that's ever growing, and we're trying to push more of our demographics into IT. As of date, we've been able to train close to 60 individuals over the year in IT, especially cloud engineering, DevOps, Scrum Master. So I'm very excited for that. A bunch of them have also been placed in jobs, coming from driving Uber, coming from working in fast food. Now they're making $6,000 an hour. I think that's a huge transformation story.
That is great.
So yeah, that's some of my background that I have. I can go on and on, but I'm gonna put a pause here. I'm very excited to be on here. So thank you so much, Oyinka, for this, and thank you for your organization for giving me this opportunity. So.
Thank you so much, and that is like such an extensive background that I know you've been here for like 8 to 9 years already. And I am also looking to the footprint that you've laid out. So I am also following your steps little by little. And So my next question would be, what have you found to be some of the most challenging aspects of, immigrating and moving to the United States, and why? Through personal experiences, through work, what has been those challenges that you've faced? Sonika.
So for me, I would say identity. A lot of times when people hear me speak, they automatically assume that I'm American born.
Mm.
However, when I share with them I'm Jamaican, and I think it's because I immigrated here very young that I always have to code switch, or I'm not Jamaican enough to my Jamaican peers because I didn't go through primary education or secondary school or university
Yeah.
there. But on the other side, amongst Americans, I'm not American because, again, the food I eat, and they always seem to point at the differences in my features to say sometimes, "What are you?" And I always found that to be one of the personal experiences that has become a challenge, is that I'm always trying to live amongst different identities to people because they don't have the understanding that immigrants don't always have an accent or look like a particular type of immigrant. Because with going back to trying to prove that I'm Jamaican, I don't have the accent and I don't have dreadlocks. And I have no interest in having dreadlocks because it's just high maintenance for me. So I think that has been something personally as a challenge that I've experienced in terms of cultural identity here in the US.
Exactly. And I resonate with what you just said. The identity. People might want you to look like, because you say you're from Jamaica, people might want you to speak a certain way, and just maybe the look. And I'm always confused. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yes,
You know,
absolutely.
for me, it's like, what do you mean? When people say, "Oh, you're Nigerian," like I've had issues when people say, "Oh, why are you speaking like this?" And I'm like, this is how I talk. I don't know how you want me to speak to you. Oh, I was expecting you to have this kind of accent. You should, I mean, or I don't know what they expect. It's just sometimes it's pretty interesting, but I mean, I think as immigrants, not all of us, but some of us would always, want to be like, oh, this is, you try to educate people on your people, their backgrounds, like they're different type of people from Africa, and a lot of like Americans would think, oh, Africa is just this one place, or it's just a lot. I'll also extend that question to you, Sam. What have you found to be some of the most challenging aspects of your move here, through work or personal experiences?
I think some of the most challenging aspects for me, and just with interacting with the community, has been around the fact that when people move here, it's like, one is, what should they expect?
Exactly.
When it comes to work, what kind of work are they expecting to come into? How can they use that degree from a different country and translate those positions here? It's been a big challenge. You see people come in that have either a bachelor's or even a doctorate degree. They come here and start doing a whole different career, for example, in healthcare, or just picking a job because either their friends or families that were already here are into those areas or into those fields.
Yeah.
It's a challenge for those that want to skill and just stay more in their career to get that smooth transitioning done. That's one of them. Another thing is just the information is very powerful, right? And that's why we're doing what we're doing. It's very important to get the right information from the right individual. For example, around building your credit. From day one, when you come into this country, you don't get this information on the street.
Oh, yes.
You're nothing. You will be sitting, just roaming around or just doing whatever work you were doing. And then all of a sudden you realize you need to have a credit to buy a home, to buy a car, to do whatever you need to do. Credit is very, very, very crucial and important. part of your existence here in the United States, if you want to be successful, you need to have a good credit. So that's some of the education that I think was a challenge for me. I did not know about it for years. And all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, I need to build my credit. So we had turned that around as an advantage where we are helping people to get those information firsthand as they come into the country. And just the right career as well, getting the right information that you could do better. You could even go straight into your career. Maybe you could take a degree course, maybe you could do a certification, like some of this information has been helpful. So that's some of these challenges.
That is interesting. And I would say what you just said is this, it's kind of the same for me as well. I kind of struggle with, you know, the whole credit system, understanding it. I mean, I have a resource of people that, you know, give me information and stuff, but nothing is not, maybe what you do with CACC, maybe there's more detailed information. I've not tapped into that resource yet, but like I'm saying, from just like from what people say to me, or people that have been in this whole student process, and they're like, oh yeah, you need to get your credit, and then you get into the credit system, and I'm like, okay, what happens? What's the next thing? And then you need to be, you know, all into your books and school, and there's just so many things revolving, and then I'm like, I don't have time to read the paperwork. Like, I just want to get this ball rolling. So yeah, it's just good to have people like you that, you know, provide that information out there, and just the resource for people coming in at whatever stage that they're coming in as students, employed, immigrant employees already gotten unemployment here, or whatever stage they're coming in, even if they cross the jungle to come into the US. But those resources are very important. And so far I have tapped into some of them, and they've been good for me. Another question I would want to ask you is on cultural differences. I mean, what has been the most impactful, or positive or negative, cultural difference you've experienced, like immigrating into a new culture? And, you know, what has been your encounter basically in that aspect, Sonika?
So for me, I would say certain holidays have always sparked up the cultural differences for me growing up, and even till today, because I still hold on to certain traditions. For example, for my family and for a lot of Caribbean people, Easter is a big holiday. I remember when I was in grade school and my parents were still trying to figure things out. One year we didn't go to school on Easter Monday, and when I returned the next day, my teacher asked me if I was okay, and I said, oh, it was a holiday. And they said, no, it wasn't a holiday. Are you making things up? So I was disciplined in school, but my parents had to tell them, no, it's a holiday. And even Boxing Day is celebrated in the Caribbean. So that was a difference. So when my family would start going into the American traditions, such as Thanksgiving, that's when I knew we were different, because every Thanksgiving on TV, you'll see a turkey, you'll see ham, and you'll see most things that represent America. But when you'll come to my family, no one ate the turkey. We did not have ham. We had rice and peas, we had different curries, and we had jerk chicken. So I think those were the cultural differences. But in the workplace, I would say I've been fortunate to be amongst others who are from different cultures. So in expressing any cultural difference, they seem to be very welcoming and try to mold it that way no one feels out of place. And it also lends into the work that I do on the labor and employment side, where you're always trying to strive towards equity in the workplace. And I think once that is the center of your organization's mission, it just shows that there's a continuous learning and appreciation for individuals with cultural differences.
That is right. That is so right. And Sam, do you have anything to say on this?
Yeah, to add to what she said, like some of the cultural difference, which I would say personally was a struggle, was just the idea of you coming into the country, even when you get a career, of that mindset of, oh, you don't belong here. The mindset of, oh, maybe you're in a community where you have more demographics of people that are from here, and that could be intimidating, right? So those are some of the experience I had, like, okay, being in a group where I was working in North Dakota, and then these other guys have a clique of group of guys that are always friends, and I was feeling like I didn't fit in because they would go make up stuff about what my work was and what it was,
Yeah.
and try to frame me up. And some of those kind of, at first was like, I started taking it personal. But then over time, I realized that all I need to focus on really is just doing a good job, doing what I need to do properly, and not give any rooms for anyone to say anything wrong. And there will be no room for nobody to say nothing. So even the makeup stuff, it should be very evident that I'm doing the right thing. So that's some of the stuff I had, challenges I had to overcome. I see a bunch of people still running through those challenges and even quitting their job to that extent.
Oh, yeah.
So those are like one of the big ones. And just the mentality like, oh, I don't belong here. I can strive to be more. Because from here was also that kind of, that is also the place where I was at the moment that I had to get out of, to like, what, I could do what anyone else can do, because it's still a lot of opportunity. It doesn't matter if I'm from here or not, but I live here now, and this is home. And I would excel, I would strive to do better. So
I definitely agree with what both of you have said. For me, it's also the same thing. Just, putting yourself in an environment where you feel like the odds are against you, but, having that mindset to say, okay, you know what, this is where I am now. This is where I want to be in the next whatever amount of years you end up living here. And just, finding your people, finding the place, finding the resources, and not just sticking to just people from your tribe or from your, country, but also opening yourself to, other people that are also in here, and, taking it as an opportunity to just educate people. I'm always excited when people ask me questions, or I come across somebody American and they're also interested. Oh, Africa, tell me. I'm excited to just, pour whatever information I have. I'm always and will forever be excited to talk about Nigeria to anybody, anywhere, anytime, any day, So those are like one of the great things so far. I'm going to move this into employment and, from an economic perspective, can you share your thoughts on the, barriers and challenges immigrants, face in assessing employment opportunities in, whatever host country they're in? Sonika, let's hear from an immigration perspective or immigrant lawyer perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say one of the things that I find amongst immigrants is that a lot of times people think that they're illegal and that they don't have documentation to work, which is a word people should take out of their vocabulary. People are not illegal. They're either undocumented or they're authorized to work based on whatever work status they may have. Some people are employed as people from professional occupations, such as doctors, nurses, that are in high demand here. They may not have a green card. However, they are authorized to work. And also, in terms of the economic perspective, sometimes I think a barrier can be education. If you are coming from a country where, based on your social stature, that education would take you to the top. And then when you come to the United States, you realize, for example, in many places, a lawyer is just one of the biggest things that you can do. People think you're dripping with money, and that's not always the case, especially when you come to America. If you see my student loan debt, that is not my income, which I wish was. So I would say one of the economic barriers is whether you have that support from the community that can put you in a position that way you won't feel as if you immigrating to the United States was a setback. You want to look at it as an elevation in your life. So I think that in looking for employment, I would recommend that you go where there is a high need in specialty occupations and even with IT. A lot of times people don't look to IT. They may look at healthcare because healthcare is one of the few professions that you can have multiple jobs in a day and no one would know.
Yeah.
Or people would expect that, okay, you work a 3-day work week, the other days you can have another job. So I would say in terms of economic, again, make sure that you are placing yourself in places where there is growth and also a high need for that particular job market.
That is so on point. I mean, what you just said about looking at your move here to the US as an elevation instead of a setback, that is one thing that I would definitely be taking away from this webinar, and also looking towards, the growth that comes with this process. I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I've grown just in the first, this is my second year here. I feel like I've grown so much, just even having the opportunity to be in a work environment, coming from, trying to get employment on campus and you have limited employment, you just get to work. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about DU, but most of the employment opportunities are available to immigrant students. It's really the dining jobs. You could get other graduate student opportunities, but it's really not enough for the population that comes in. So you end up doing the dining jobs and you can only work 20 hours per week. There's so many things that, adds up to that. And for me, I came here for not just to learn, but also to, understand the American workplace and environment. I'm doing HR. That is something that is essential. Even if I have to go back to Nigeria today, I want to be able to say, yes, I came into the US for this program. I'm able to, get into the workplace and, learn all these things about the American culture, their workplace values, which so far for me is 100% different from, HR and all of those things in Nigeria or Africa in general. So I really resonate with what you said. Sam, do you have any pointers, any new things to add?
Yeah, I think Sonika kind of already hit on some of them. She mentioned one thing which I'm going to reiterate on and move to another one, is like being in the right place of opportunity. Very important. It doesn't mean we all have to do IT or we all have to be a lawyer or attorneys or doctors, but whatever you're doing or whatever you find doing, you have to do some evaluation and see what is the long term of that, what's the path. And it's just great that we all have different paths, just like you mentioned, you learning a skill that's transferable because you already kind of see a roadmap of where you're going, you can use it anywhere. There have to be some reason why, not just jumping into things like, oh, this person is doing this, I'm gonna do it. What is the reason why you're doing it? What's the demand? Is it sustainable? Is there a future there for you? If you're trying to do it long term, those questions are some of the questions that people don't ask when we come. Is just jump into, okay, everybody's in home health, fine, we'll jump into it, great. In the meantime, but what's the plan? So whatever you find doing and whatever we find doing, I think should be sustainable, should have a future, there should be a longevity, and there should be a demand. We need to be in an industry where there's not much of us, like IT, like lawyers. It's not much of us. We need more people in that industry. What happens to that? Can we be able to chair more people? And that's challenges I had was, okay, going into IT, for example, is not having so many people of my color that are there. It was a struggle to get mentors because I'm reaching out and then people are not responding, or the mentorship wasn't going as I wanted. So, and some of those fundamentals, we are already changing the narratives for that part. And also, what about the housing market? Do we have enough loans? Do we have enough resources that's meant to cater to our people? There's so much limited resources within the housing market. What about business development? How much grants are allocated to people of color? So you start talking about that, and we fall right in that bracket, right? So those are some of the challenges I had, even during my business, was struggling along this line. It's getting better in Colorado. I'm very happy and excited to see we've been working very hard with the state, and they've really been allocating a lot to our Africans, immigrants. We're like being put on top of the list right now. So this is a great time to be in Colorado. And yeah.
Sounds good. So is there anything you wish people knew more about immigrants or others that are new in the community? Is there something that you wish maybe employers or companies, how can they be more accommodating to immigrants? Is there anything in that? Do you have any pointers for that? Sonika?
Yes, I actually do. I think it all boils down to just cultural awareness. And not only just for immigrants, but for your entire organization as a whole. Because everyone has different lived experiences, and not to think that all immigrants are from impoverished countries, because for me, my parents were teachers in Jamaica and they went to university. So my immigrant story here was not, I'm the first one in my family to go to college. It was not. So when you see someone who is an immigrant, don't think that they're the first to go to college or they escaped some tragedy. A lot of times it's because we all see America as this place of opportunity and a place where sometimes is more accommodating than your country and has different gateways to success. So I think in terms of cultural awareness, that a lot of companies should have that in the workplace, because it is obvious that either if your last name is different, you pronounce your name differently than how it's spelt out, it doesn't mean that this person may not fit into the organization, because a lot of times organizations like to use the term culture.
Yeah.
And for me, I always ask, what does culture look like? Does it mean that one particular group dominates, or does it mean that it's a blend of cultures together in order to make the company's culture successful? So I think that's something that companies can take away from, is making sure that you have a need for cultural awareness as a footprint in every department.
That is great. Sam, you can also answer that question as well, but I also want to ask you, what are 2 or 3 things you think are most important for people that they could do when coming into a new community and a new country? What are, 1 or 2 or 3 things that they could take into, their memory and say, oh, this is why I'm coming here, or just setting their goals and all of that?
Yeah, I think one of the things for those coming as an adult, already having family, if you're not coming for educational purposes, would be, even if you're coming for educational purposes as well, it gives you a longer time. But for those coming right in and just have to start working the next day or a week after, it's a shorter time, right? I would still look at some of your purposes, like, okay, I'm migrating to a new country, migrating to the US. What is out there for me? One, where is your housing? Where are you going to stay? Fine, if you have a temporary housing, what's the goal? You're trying to transition to buy your own. What do you need for that to happen? Start drawing a roadmap. In regards to career, what do you currently have going on? Should you switch to a better career? What is actually in need in your state or wherever you're going to be dwelling? That has to be conversations you have to have. And also looking at your family, if you have a family, like where is the best suit for your family? Is it affordable? You don't want to go into a state where it's too expensive and then you're struggling. You
Yeah,
don't have time to develop yourself because you need time to do all this investment to gain the skills that you need to strive. So those are some of the stuff, and also look for nonprofits, organizations that already have those resources available. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can actually show you a roadmap that you can tailor along to be successful.
hmm
That is something I would, advise someone coming in to do. I think it will put them 2, 3, 4 years ahead of the game.
exactly. I definitely agree. And I would just add to that by saying, aside, looking at the resources or where you'll be staying and all of those things, especially for like students, I don't really hear a lot of students say things like, oh, I'm trying to join, let's say I'm studying this program, I'm trying to join the chapter or, let's say Association of Computer Engineers, that kind of thing. Look into those associations and groups can also help you in your career and just, creating a community. For me, it was Mile High SHRM. I already joined, national SHRM body, but joining the local chapter really helped me, just volunteering and putting my time into that space to build on my HR skills, basically, and just having them have me. It was just amazing. And looking into their events just to meet people, because it can be really boring not knowing where to move or go left from back. Just knowing that there's a place, there's a community that you can actually start from.
Right.
Aside you look into your own like African community, Jamaican community, all of those things, looking outside and extending that reach. Well, thank you guys so much for participating. Any last comments?
I do. I just wanted to touch on what your last question was. I would say don't commit a crime, especially when you don't have lawful status or
Mhm.
you're U.S. citizen, because you can come into a lot of issues and you won't have the opportunities, as Sam has mentioned, in terms of equity. You want to make sure that in obtaining these treasures that you may not have had the opportunity to do so in your native country, that you're building equity and you have a plan. And you also don't want to just put yourself in a box that you only assimilate with people of your culture. America is very diverse, and if that was one of the things that you're just stuck on, that you're just going to remain with your people, then maybe immigrating to a country that's diverse wasn't for you. So I would say always diversify your thought, your way of living, and be a part of different areas in which you can grow. So I would say that is just one last thing I had wanted to share.
Any last words, Sam?
My last comment is just look for resources, don't limit yourself to just the group you hang out with or the group you find yourself in. Expand your course, like Sonika just said. There's so much going on, so much opportunity in the US. It's great, it's a lot. You will not know if you're not in the right group. So expand your course, network, look for networking event, look for the right crowd, look for mentors, look for resources that's already available that has some track record. Get with them. It's okay if you don't have a plan, but that could start pushing you in the right direction, start pushing you to opportunities. And opportunities are only available when you know about it. So just don't limit yourself. And if you're even struggling right now, or you don't know where you're at, it's okay too. Just keep striving and keep using all the tools and some of this available to you. And if you live in Colorado, please definitely find time. Contact me if you're struggling in a certain area. I might not be able to help, but I know some resources that we could tell on and help you. So
And that's good.
yeah.
And I know I said one more thing, but I just thought of something.
Yeah.
I know it's very prevalent in the Caribbean community where we don't share because we always say, oh, don't tell people your business. And we need to let go of that because it doesn't help you. You have to let people know when, like Sam said, if you're in need of help or if you found an opportunity and you think it will be helpful to someone, share. So I think we need to do a better job in the Caribbean community. You don't have to tell your personal business, but share something with someone that can be in need of that resource as well.
I agree. Thank you guys so much for participating. I've gained a lot from this, and I'll be moving forward in my endeavors with all that you said. And I'm hoping people listening are also have also gotten something. And if you are an American, grab somebody that's an immigrant and show them about your community, your place, you know, be of a resource to people. And I'm also looking forward to or better immigration policies. The US is doing amazing and just welcoming us in here with all that is happening. And I just want to say thank you guys. Thank you so much. And Ellie.
Yes, thank you everyone so much for your participation and insight. I feel like I learned so much from you guys, as well as Onyeka too. It's really fun to hear from you. So thank you guys so much. We'll be in touch, and please keep Reach in mind with any future events or anything you need from us, okay?
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.